presentation is about the Gegg cave system. This will be the first time you'll get to see underground at Gegg's. We see the top of the ground. But thank goodness for Chad McCain. Chad's going to tell us about the underground, give us the digital presentation of it. And we'll get to that in just a second. We got some house cleaning things we've got to do first. One of the first things every time we have one of these presentations is to say thank you to Dick Millinger. Without Dick Millinger, for everybody that's in here this evening, if you are not a member, if you don't hold a member card to the museum, you can take the amount of money that you pay to get in the door, and when you go out, apply it to a membership card, and it'll allow you to come to every one of these presentations free. So, and there's a lot of other benefits with it. I have a file for our presenter tonight, Chad McCain. He is being sponsored this evening by the WASP. So I'd like a big round of applause for the WASP. Chad McCain is a prominent cave explorer and surveyor in the southeast Missouri karst region. A key member of the southeast Missouri ROC. He specializes in mapping complex cave systems and has led major expeditions to local underground caves. He might very well spend more time underground than he does above ground. What they call that. He is heavily involved in the local cave exploration community, offering expert presentations on his findings and surveying work at educational venues. His notable exploration and research efforts include the Black Phantom River Cave. He has spent years exploring and documenting this system, which is now ranked as Missouri's 7th longest known cave. And tonight's presentation is on the Gegg cave system, considered the largest significant cave discovery in modern Missouri history. If I could get a round of applause for Chad.
All right, guess this works. That's loud. Thanks for having me. Kind of showed up late, but it is what it is, right? So, just a little other background. If those of you who didn't know, there are a lot of caves in St. Genevieve County. When I moved to Missouri in 2007, got involved with the Simo Grotto, got involved in caving in St. Genevieve County. There were 74 known caves. The 74th was the Black Phantom River Cave. It's now 74 miles long that Bob owns one of the entrances of. This is the 17th documented cave in the county. And what I mean by that is there's an organization called Missouri Speleological Society. We track all cave locations known. So when I say a known cave, I don't mean the cave that you own that cavers have never been in. I mean a documented cave that cavers said, oh, this is significant, we're going to catalog it. This is number 17, okay? But it was never mapped. Now there are 261 known caves in St. Genevieve County. So that number's exploded exponentially since 2007. So anyway, cool cave. Appreciate the landowners for letting me talk about this. I've actually been pretty excited about this, but because of the name of the cave, I was kind of apprehensive, just because family names kind of, whatever. But anyway, opening slide, nothing exciting. We're out in a cow field. It's the middle of February. Very, very cold. But all cave discoveries start with one, getting permission, and then two, you got to start somewhere. So I knocked on the door, and oh gosh, it would have been 13 years ago. So I was 37. I'll be 51 in a couple weeks. So I've been doing this for a while. And the first cave we mapped was another known cave, and as you can see up top, that is the 14th known cave in the county, but it was never mapped. But knocked it out pretty quick, fairly significant, but it didn't go very far. I think it's 917 feet. Kind of a letdown, but it was still cool. Got a new map, and we moved on. not much of an entrance, but there's a cave in there. So sometimes when you think there's nothing on your property, there is. But all this water has to go somewhere, right? And again, this part of the county, I'll be quite honest with you, this was a lucky shot, right? I wasn't studying geology, I wasn't studying springs, I just so happened to knock on a door, got permission, and it led to all this. But this is the spring. It's not much to look at because it doesn't flow a lot of water all the time, but it's a collapsed spring, so who knows what it looked like 1,000 years ago, right? This is way south on the flank on the Ice and Vice Road. And if I butcher any local names, just remember, I didn't grow up here. So I've just spent a lot of time here. Anyway, this is some kind of anomaly that we still haven't been able to figure out to this day. But the landowner told me years ago that this would, after rainstorms, it wouldn't really flow water, but it would launch water out of it like a geyser. But you know what? Pictures, or it didn't happen, right? Never had much luck with it. So let's move on to the main thing that we're all here. This is January 13th, 2015, over 11 years ago. That was 3 years after I knocked on the door initially and got permission to go. Survey started pretty easy, as you can see. It's not that difficult of an entrance, and trust me, there are some terrible, terrible caves around here because we've knocked on lots of doors. Hey, you got any caves? Well, no, nothing that I would consider a cave, and then we crawl into it or rappel into it. Yeah, it's a cave, but it's pretty terrible getting into, right? This one was pretty nice. It started off walking, unless you're me. I'm 6'3", so I bang my head off a lot of stuff. Gretchen in the back, 5'1". She can run where I'm hands and knees crawling, and I hate her for it. But that's why you recruit little people to help. But anyway, the cave, again, it starts out walking. You know, there's a map over here. There's going to be a lot of map cuts. But it gave promise, right? So I was pretty excited about it. And when it led to this, I guess I should back up. In the 60s, Langgrove did a geological write-up of this cave. So he described what he went into, but he obviously didn't go everywhere because he was just doing like a quick geological write-up for the state, okay? So he got permission back in the day, did this write-up, so I knew, okay, there's some potential here. Let's knock this out. And this is coming right off of, mapping another 7-mile-long cave in the county that was unknown until 2007. And for those of you who were around when I gave a talk on that cave a couple years ago at the museum, that was a huge discovery, right? This one was also big, also fun, just fun in a different way, okay? Such as, obviously cattle got washed in and didn't make it out, hence the pelvis, whatever. So you may be wondering what's going on in this photo, so I'll kind of explain it. When we started, basically mapping a cave is playing connect the dot with a tape measure and a compass and an inclinometer from the entrance as far as you go in. And you're measuring the distance with the tape measure, you're measuring the azimuth with the compass, and you're measuring the inclination up and down in between those points. So when we started, we kind of made it easy. Let's just put some lights on sticks. Again, this is an ever-evolving method, right? Because we're not land surveyors, we're not mine surveyors. This is never going to be used to drill a well or avoid drilling a well. Maybe, who knows, right? But it's not that important. We don't have that degree of accuracy that the mine in town would have, or the surveyor that's surveying your farm, right? It's just not that important. So anyway, cave gives some promise. It led to some water. Okay, this is cool. But I should say this is a cave entrance that you just walk into, and it only takes on water when it's raining. Unless it rains a whole lot, then it will start flooding out, and the whole sinkhole will go underwater, and that entrance you saw in the first photo will go under 20 to 30 feet of water. That sound about right? Landowners would know, right? Maybe, if they look out the back. But anyway, this was the first indication of moving water, but it was just flowing out of one wall and right under the other. Meaning, and basically what's going on here is the stream is completely pirated out a new route that's only about this tall and is completely full of water, and no matter what we do, we can't follow it, right? But it did give an indicator of what else there was. So we headed down this terrible crawlway that I ended up calling the Colossal Cobble Crawlway, which is belly crawling over that crap. I've only been down there 2 or 3 times in my life, and not in the past decade, and I probably still have bruises. But it led to this, right? It led to walking, big, but muddy. Just another indicator that, okay, there has to be something big, right? So we're mapping along. This is the 3rd survey. And I think after this day, there was potentially a 1/4 mile of cave mapped between these few different forks of the cave. And there were Indiana bats that were living in the cave, so had to be careful of that, right? So this was the map for quite a while, and then for some reason I lost interest because of that water right there. It was low air, and for those of you who don't know, we consider low air anything like this is big air, right? If we were walking in a cave, this would be huge. Well, imagine the water flooded within 4 inches of the ceiling, right? It's going to stop most people, not everybody, but it's going to stop most people. But there were other caves on the property, little things here and there, so it was kind of like getting the big picture. I just mapped every little nerd hole there was, and that led to this little thing that like literally butt right up to that mud-filled part of the cave that you just saw in a couple slides back. But it didn't go. So this is that water crawl. It's really not that bad, but it was ripping a lot of airflow. And what that means is that cave's gonna go. If you've got air pumping through, it's either gonna go really big or it's just going to another hole not too far away and it's gonna fool you and piss you off like another cave did here in the city limits that we thought was gonna be massive and just went 900 feet. The air was just circulating between the two, right? So you think, oh, this is awesome. Nope. It's still awesome, but not that awesome. So, had this lead on Thanksgiving Day, 2015. If I remember right, my wife took the kids, went up to Iowa. I was still in the field, so I had to work the day before Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, so I couldn't go to Iowa. So I texted all my friends, hey, can anybody go caving on Thanksgiving Day? And I got one answer. And he's like, yeah, I can. I'm like, cool, where do you want to go? And I had this long list of leads from this county, right? And he said, well, what about that one cave you've been mapping with the airflow that's at the water? And, well, yeah, we can go there. Why not? So, went back, headed in, and rounded the corner, got through the low air, and this is all on video because holy crap, right? I won't read what's on the screen. I guess maybe your kids are literate, they can read it anyway. But anyway, it went from 5 inches of air to what looked like a dead end. Michael shot around the corner. He's like, dude, it opens up. 2 shots, we're out of the water. Oh, sweet, because it's Thanksgiving. I'm freezing my ass off. We're in wetsuits, so we're good, but still, it's cold. You're soaked. You got that airflow just ripping through. It freezes you out quick. And then, like, literally before that, Bradford, it's like we're walking through a narrow canyon, and all we saw was darkness, like we're walking into a subway tunnel. And he's like, man, I don't think we're ready for this. And this is what we walked into, and like the screenshot says, it's like, it ain't pretty, but it's pretty freaking big, and it's pretty awesome, but it wasn't decorated, but who cares, right? This was completely unknown, right? How does a cave go this long in Missouri? But it happens all the time, right? So we surveyed through it. I forget how much we mapped that day, but this ceiling's around 22 to 28 feet tall, 15 feet wide, and mud everywhere, and no stream at all. Where is the water at, right? Water makes caves here. Where's it flowing at? So we chased it, and we teed off survey at the end of the day in a big junction. And we went from one lead, left the map, and a lead is just like an unknown passage, right? Where does that go? It's a lead. We're going to map it later. And it led to a 5-way junction. And then we went this way, and that led to a 3-way junction. And we went up over the mountain, and it led to a 4-way junction. We went straight ahead, and it led to another 3-way junction. It's like, holy crap, we need some help, right? So, 5th survey, I roped up, all the local surveyors, and we started hitting it. And it was cool. It was big, but God, going through that low air and getting completely soaked, and now you're in dry walking passage. That was the worst part of it. that usually is the worst part of it. So other teams, again, we split off on all different areas. Gary Resch, Michael Bradford, and I think Alex, isn't that you? I think it is. They took off down Graffiti Passage, and this whole time it's like, okay, this is cool. Nobody has ever been here before. This is Virgin Cave, big term that we use in the caving community, right? Well, we were wrong. There was spray paint on the ceiling, which I hate. But I don't remember the kid's name off the top of my head, but it was the landowner's nephew, right? You guys remember that? And there were two other names, and I tracked one of them down because I'm like, where did you go? What did you see? Because I want to know that everything after that is actually new. And she couldn't remember anything other than they snuck in and they got completely soaked and they were muddy as hell, and that's all she remembered. So, but anyway, took pictures, shared with the family, and it was pretty cool. It was unexpected, but still, it's like, okay, somebody who doesn't do what we do regularly was crazy enough to go through that low air into the unknown. And they probably just had flashlights, flannel shirts, blue jeans, and froze, right? And I hope they did, right? Because why not? So anyway, while this is going on, we're back and we're mapping all this complex, goofy stuff, right? But we're kind of limited on the instruments that we have, right? There were a lot of holes. There was a lot of complex stuff going on. There's breakdown covered in mud, and for those who don't know, breakdown is just the cave falling apart, right? It's just big boulders, big blocks. The walls are falling in, the ceilings have collapsed. It's usually very stable, but that's what we call it. And we're going on, and we get into more areas, and we get into this area where, again, I think this was a six-way junction, and it was just ridiculous. So here you can see Alex taking a compass shot, a bearing shot off of what we set as a station. We'll often flag or use whiteout, right? Something to mark it, because as the caves flood, survey stations get wiped out. And the only way to make an accurate map is to tie into exactly the same station that you set years ago or weeks ago. But in this county, rain has a way of going underground, depending on where you are. When it goes underground, it only has one thing to do, and that's to fill the cave up with water, right? So, but this was a cool area. This was like the first indicator that, wow, we've got decorations, and this is cool. It may not be show cave, but man, this is our cave. We're mapping this, and we're discovering this, and we're sharing pictures. And then when we come around the corner, here's another junction. I think this was I don't even remember, 4-way, 5-way, and one of the ways went for a half mile, hidden behind a giant boulder that I missed. And but that's kind of how it goes, right? So now after all this is how much bigger the cave got. So it went from that lake to all of this, and it's still only contained within, I don't even remember, 1,000 feet by a couple hundred feet wide. So very compact, and I'm not even sure what the distance is. I should have typed it up on the slide, but I didn't. So whatever. Anyway, back at the bolted junction, this is what I mean. There's a lot going on here. So we got tape measures all over the place, and we had to rig some hand lines because basically everything's covered in mud. All the boulders are sloped into the hole in one wrong step. We don't want to get hurt, so let's make it safe. But again, as you can see, it's a very, very, I don't know how to say it, just a very convoluted, very gnarly, very sporty cave, right? So back to on survey number 5, when Alex was doing the graffiti passage, he also checked out some dig, and at the bottom, they finally found an active stream. Air quotes, active stream. Who the hell wants to go through that, right? Well, we pushed it, yeah, you do. You got way more air in there than I do. But we pushed this, and it went, I don't know, a couple hundred feet, something like that, but it never popped open, right? It just stayed low. Got really dangerously low. Chest to back, ceiling to floor, couldn't go any further, right? So it's like, all right, this is dumb, let's turn around. And that's the way it was, right? So we're hoping, all right, we finally found a river that isn't really a river. And it was kind of a letdown. So off we go, we keep pushing, and here's the data that we brought out. This is how this is how it's been done for years, right? Write in rain, water-resistant paper. You sketch it up, bring it out digitally, draft it. The reason why this map looks so good is back in the day I used to have a lot more free time. Now I don't. So this map is a little behind, but you get the idea. So now if you go all the way back to the very opening slide of this cave, this is that same day, survey number 9. We had 5 or 6 teams in there. I don't remember how many, but there was quite a few people. We had people all over the place. And keep in mind, by this point, people like Gary, Edmund, Alex, myself, we know nobody's ever been here. There's just no way, right? Eventually you get to that point where there's no way kids with a flashlight, flannel shirts, blue jeans, there's just no way, you know? So very cool. The reason why we call it the fault line pass is the wall took a kind of a zigzag dip through the middle of it. I think all that really meant was the wall's getting ready to collapse and it's just slowly folding the rock over time. It's not really a fault line, but why go back and change the map, right? We named it what we named it, and that's what it is, and there's the story. But more formations, it's cool. This team had a good time. Meanwhile, we took off up to the northern loop, which was hidden in the bolted junction, and had a lot of teams, and here we end up getting this ridiculous survey shot that's 2.5 feet long to tie into that rock, because that rock ain't going anywhere, right? That survey station's still there today, and we still use zip ties around here. Again, everything floods. It gets crazy. But again, we're kind of using the tools that we have, because in here, this was a 44-foot tall canyon full of mud, and we were going from the top to the bottom in a very short amount of time, and we had to survey down the mud slope, but at the bottom of the mud slope was a 12-foot drop off, right? So again, we're kind of working our way through recruiting people. We're having climb ups, and this is in the trenches, right? And the guys that mapped this, if they would have only kept going that day, they would have had the major breakout. But they didn't. They turned around. They called it after like 300 feet survey. So I don't remember who got the glory, but it wasn't them. So this was a fun day, right? This was kind of when this was an easier survey day. There was 4 of us. There was Alex. Actually, I think it was 5. Or no, it was 4. Well, either way, it was this group of rowdy-looking dudes, and we mapped 1,500 feet. It was all no indication everybody had been there, and I still remember this day. Jeremy here with the gray helmet, he's from Raleigh. He was an engineering student. If I remember right, he was an aerospace engineer, and he mapped more cave on this day than he had on any mapping trip combined in Raleigh at the university up to that point, meaning he'd maybe been on 3 or 4 or 5 cave survey trips, and they'd mapped less than 300 or 400 feet total, and he saw tons, right? So he was amped, and that's how you get the young people involved. You get them on a big discovery trip, and then they're never going to tell you no, right? You stick them in any hole you want, go map that. And but here we are, we're still using the methods of pulling tape, shooting compass, working our way through all this mud, no footprints anywhere. It obviously floods are up crazy. This is an upper level, the parallel passages. Again, we're kind of jumping around on the survey trips, but it's just kind of the progression of the map where there were so many leads going in so many different directions that kind of made it hard to put a presentation together. It kind of made sense, from a storytelling standpoint. But this was a cool area. Again, all upper level. But throughout these upper levels of the cave, there were these stromatolite fossils in the wall. Stromatolites are just that little goofy-looking folding that you have there, and those are there were an algae bed. Something had to do with they're basically the reason oxygen exists on the Earth in the first place. Okay, so look it up. There's your big word for the day: stromatolite. Which continued on past all this, and again, parallel passages. We're thinking, all right, this is awesome. This is going to go, but they do end up choking out. But still, this was a very pretty area. But down below it, there was another level crisscrossing below. Again, there's a lot going on here. So in this shot, we're literally doing a vertical shot straight down to tie into a lower level. Again, it's all about getting the map to kind of make sense, right? So now here we are. We got that northern loop area up here. We got those parallel passages, and we got, what was that called? Oh, that was the fault line pass. So there you go. It's kind of a lot going on here, right? But it's not going anywhere. The cave isn't expanding out, you know, it's not covering miles underground. It's just kind of staying contained under one farm so far. So again, this was just now, a buddy of mine is in town from New Mexico. He had moved by then, but we've done a lot of caving together, so it's like, oh, I got a lead for you to help me map. Let's map this wet one, right? Just like the good old days. And so we tied it in, and here we got breakdown, covered in mud. We got more breakdown. You can see that folding of the rock up at the top. A lot going on, and of course, Edmund was he still is. He's a little guy, but he's fearless. He can push through anything. And I honestly don't know how he even gets stuck in some of the places I've seen him squeeze, but he wanted to go in there, and it was nothing. So hey, the glory's yours, dude. So here we are. We're at the end of the day. We're doing another tie-in, doing a vertical shot down, and then we're like, hey, let's go see what's up ahead, right? Let's go see what's up ahead. So we drop the survey gear, we pack it up, and we head up, and then we can start hearing the rush of water. And we're like, oh, dude, what is that? Well, this wasn't the big stuff, but it led to this. So we're like, holy crap, we actually just found a river. And we followed it downstream. It was like a water park. There were a lot of these flow stones. And on that day, it was a heavy, apparently, I can't remember, but it must have rained quite a bit before, because the water was quite high, because water was pouring in through every wall. And when we went back, it wasn't anything like that. So now the cave's got really complex, right? So just so you know, the only way you get good at drawing maps like this is to draw maps like this, right? There's a lot of just interpretation and just making it make sense, and it's a lot easier when you're the one sketching in the cave, because then you can decipher your own crap when you scan it into the computer, right? So we're moving on. I think Alex was at work this day, and I got permission because now the cave is running under another farm, so I go knock on his door, and he's like, yeah, go ahead, whatever, go walk my land, I don't care. All right, cool, thanks. So I found this hole. The interesting thing about it, the topo map showed a pond. Well, there is no pond, right? Well, that's because the cave collapsed underneath it and swallowed the whole thing up, okay? Don't know when, but we do know that happened. So it led to this very unstable entrance that we've probably used more than any other. And I say unstable because it no longer looks like this. It no longer looks like what it did after this, or after that photo, or after that photo, or after that photo. Every time it rains, this entrance changes, okay? But back to the river. So we did find the river. A lot of water, really decorated. High canyon, 44 feet tall. You can't see the top of it at any one point, but it's there. And we know because we got to the top of it. We surveyed. And I didn't want to map it, so I made Michael draw. He sketched, right? But it's easy, it's water. What do? You put some squiggles and an arrow, the water's going that way, draw the other stuff, right? Pretty good. But that was the day that we also found that entrance that I just took a picture of from the inside. It's like, but we didn't know, we kind of had an idea, right? Because you're mapping, you're doing overlays, and you're like, okay, we gotta be getting close to this hole. So we crawled out, and they didn't know where we were, but I'm like, yep, I was just here 2 weeks ago. I know exactly where we are. So we're like, yeah, this is awesome. Are we trespassing right now? We don't know where we just crawled in one hole, we came out another one on somebody else's farm. I guess you had to be there, but you know whatever. So anyway, this, we discovered everything up coming this way, and the entrance, which is that little hole, right? So it's kind of just this weird, there's a lot of weird stuff going on here. But it, again, led to the river. This is the river. Yay, it's muddy. It's really muddy. It's got a lot of mud. It's got these flow stones. It's got a lot of water built up behind it. These are very loud. You're coming upon them. It's not a lot of water coming over, but because it's spilling over, it really sounds loud when you've never seen it before. You're like, whoa, what is that, right? Well, on the way there, there was this little indicator of the mud bank. Notice how there is no mud. right? Well, there was a hole in the ceiling, and we look up in it, it's like, oh, wow, I bet water pours in that when it rains. It does. So, this was a bad day. July 18th, 30% chance of rain, 0.03 of an inch possible forecasted. It dumped 2 inches in 20 minutes. And it sounded like a fire hydrant opened up inside the cave. But where we were in an upper level. There wasn't no water, but you could hear it. And we'd go walk down to that river that we just saw. No muddy water there. Well, what is that? I don't know. I think we need to go. So we go, that wonderful looking skylight entrance. We get to it, and that's what it was looking like looking up. It was pretty scary, ain't gonna lie. I can laugh about it now, but at the time it wasn't funny. But it takes on a lot of water. I felt really bad because those two older gentlemen that were with me in that last photo that I took a picture of standing in the muddy water, they're kind of my mentors. They were 63 and 64 when I met them in 2008. And now Paul, he can't cave because he's 81. But Richard, how old is Richard now? 80? Richard still caves. And I was apologizing because I felt like, man, I just about killed two of my mentors, right? Richard, of course, you guys know, he's like, oh no, we all made the decision to go in. We saw the forecast. We all agreed. Okay, thanks for making me feel better. But anyway, so that's the closest call I've ever had with the water in this county. I know the cave flooded because there was a pink elephant, little like McDonald's toy stuck to the wall. Because around here, y'all have seen it. If there's a sinkhole, somebody's thrown something in it, washes into the cave. You find a lot of interesting things, right? So there's this pink elephant. We slapped it into the wall, covered it in mud. That was at the entrance when we got out, or the next time we went in. So it's like, oh, hey, well, it is a good thing we got the hell out of there, right? So anyway, survey continued. This is the trenches. This is a lot of potholes in the floor. Got this guy who really was wanting, he was all amped up on finding springtails, which I'm not going to just look it up later, right? And I'm just like, wow, okay, I'll take you, but okay, dude. Scientist, really? That's what you're after? Whatever. But it was a good time. He was good fun. He made the trips lively, but yeah, he was looking for springtails. He sees tiny little bugs that have a spring tail. So there he is. So anyway, we're heading upstream in the river, and this is probably one of the bigger water features. It's pretty loud, pretty noisy, and now the river, as you can see, it really takes off to the southwest, right? And the water that when we discovered the river, we followed it, and it sumped out, and all that meant is the water, there is no more air, it just goes under the wall, and that's the end, right? But a lot of loops, right? A lot of weird stuff going on here, and the river's just kind of taking off. And right here, Cottonwood Corner, it's kind of hopeful. There was this cave on the surface, had a car shoved into it, next to a giant cottonwood tree. It was a terrible cave. I think it went 50 or 60 feet, but the tiniest map I've ever drawn, probably. It didn't go, but the main Cottonwood Corner, we were hopeful because there was a dome in the ceiling, and we're like, oh, maybe this will go, and this is awesome. But since we now have full access to the next door neighbor's property, he's like, yeah, there's stuff all over the place. Just do whatever you want to do, right? So we find this, and we end up asking him about it later. And all this was a little cave that his grandparents had dug the entrance open, and that was their cream and butter storage. So they had that hand crank, right? So we're like, oh, this is cool. Somebody's probably been here before, but it was an unknown cave. It was just, kind of looked like a well. But you could hear the water roaring down below it, hence the name Roaring Well, right? Here's the map. Didn't do much, but it's kind of another question. Now you can see that's cave number 142. So the amount of caves that we were finding in the county around this time. Plus, I think by this time, Alex hadn't even graduated and moved into the area. And yeah, so Alex was like, man, he found like 60 or 70 caves in this county in 1 year, But when you're single, Right out of college, you got nothing else to do. It's cheaper than going to the bars, I can tell you that. So, anyway, we're heading up, and this was a good one, right? So I set this team upstream because we got leads all over the place. You map this, we'll go here, you're going here. They ended the sketch, and he just made it look like it ended. And I'm not going to call him out, but some of us know who it is. So Alex and I went up there, and God, I wish I had a photo of the actual, what we call the inundator. The plank or die was literally this pool of water with a hole this big right at the water level. When you're going in, it ain't a big deal. Your feet are in the deep water, you just get in and kick around, and you're into a crawlway, and then it pops back up. The big stuff, but coming out, your whole legs and hips and waist and your back, it's all trapped in this tight crawlway, and you're crawling into a pool of water you can't feel the bottom of. Well, if you get stuck, you better be able to plank, right? Or die. But it was a really interesting passage beyond this. So that's an inkwell, and it was stuck in a flowstone about 6 feet up. Isn't that about how high it is? Really awesome photo. I think Derek Holtman actually won an award with this photograph at the National Speleological Society NSS convention that's every year, right? But he also won one with this one. So this one's much older. This was at knee level, 2 feet off the ground. So if you've ever heard that flowstone, which is all these formations underground, they don't grow fast, well, I beg to differ. Although that does look pretty old, but it's not a cork top. So a screw top bottle, it could be 60, 70, 80 years old. Still though, that's 2 or 3 inches of flowstone that build up, right? But anyway, cool passage. It's still going to this day for you, not for me. I'm way too big. But it's cool, right? So here's Gary Resch. He's surveying past actually alcohol line. He drew it. He said, oh, this is done. Doesn't go anywhere, and it did, right? It went. But it was cool. So it was one of the prettier areas. It was one of the cleaner areas, and it didn't have a lot of mud, and that's all the way down in this area. Actually, I can't even read. Probably getting old, right? But anyway, it's in there somewhere. So 10 years ago, wow, has it been that long? We finally got an instrument called a Disto X. That kind of upped the game. A Disto X is like a Disto, which is a device for measuring distance. But a guy modified it so that it would now record the compass data and the inclinometer and the distance all in one shot. And you just shoot from wall to wall to wall to wall, and the worst passage you can imagine. You can just bounce that laser through from point to point to point where it used to have to be a compass shot. And you had to get your face behind it. So this changed the game. We were able to map a lot of terrible stuff. And then one day we're coming back from upstream, and I don't know why we threw Michael up there, but he's 5'8". He gets up there and he's like, yeah, there's nothing up here, it doesn't go. And I'm just looking, I see the ceiling channel just disappearing into the wall, which means the cave used to go that way, but he's too short, he couldn't see. So I got up there, and it went, but you had to cross over this canyon first. So there was a lot of this weird, how are we going to do this and make it up? But it went into a crawlway, and you saw from that shot, it went for 4,000 feet. And eventually, it teed off on this weird anomaly. It's still the same cave, but it doesn't look like the same cave. All I mean by that is, I don't know, you just have to see it. It didn't have the same feel, it didn't have the same aura or vibe, it didn't look the same, it was completely different. So like, well, what are we getting into here? And I'll never forget it because I was surveying with Michael, and he gets to the end and it gets really small and really tight. It's a clay covered floor. And I always had a garden trowel with me on these trips because, well, what if you get somewhere in the clay, you got to dig footholds or something that, it's filled in with clay, but if you just dig through a couple feet, you'll be back into bigger cave. And he gave me so much crap saying, you'll never dig through a lead with a garden trowel on a discovery trip, right? All right, whatever, dude. We'll see. We'll see who has the last lap. So years later, we got into this. We dug our way in, and this was kind of the ballroom, and this wasn't definitive into the cave. But that lead with the clay, we hadn't got there yet. But this is right there, 70-foot dig. He got to it, of course, him and the gal that was with us, they wouldn't shut up. And finally, when I got caught up sketching, I told him to be quiet because I laid in that crawler and I'm like, dude, I can hear waterfall. And he was like, what? No, wait, give me that trowel. Well, he was small at the time. And he fit all the way through and you could hear him just jump around. So he's like, oh my God, he got so big. And it's all on GoPro video and you can hear him in the distance. And he come back, he apologized later. He's like, you can have your trowel back. But then there was the problem of, well, none of the rest of us can get through. How's this going to work? Well, while all this is going on, okay, the reason why this is in here, there was always this story of wheat threshings from the landowner's grandfather or great-grandfather getting washed into a hole and coming out of that spring that I showed you on one of the very first slides. Now, if I had $1 for every time I'd heard something like that didn't pan out, I'd probably have, I don't know, $20 or $30, but either way, it doesn't happen often. So we kept checking this hole out, right? And as you can see, it's just the base of a massive area, but when it floods, all that woody debris floats and then it resettles somewhere else. So while we were on the farm, between every survey trip, it's like, why don't we just walk by just in case? Because when I went past it years ago, it was open, but I was by myself, nobody could go with. Don't go caving by yourself, bad things can happen, especially in this area. Because of this, right? What if all that mud slumped in while we were in there? How are you getting out, right? But anyway, on this day, it was open. So we texted people, we gave them GPS, and we're like, we gotta map this whole cave today. And it wasn't that big, but it was kind of big. It just didn't go very far, but it was heading right towards the back door of the northern loop, right? But it ends in this trash heap of styrofoam and bottles and, what is that, a fertilizer jug? I swam through it. Alex didn't. He didn't want any part of it, but that looked like it went. It didn't. So I was already soaked, as you can see, but yeah, it was pretty terrible. But you can see it just comes right up to the back end. That's it. You know, that was the end of that one. But we finally got in, and now every day that we've been there since, it's been sealed up again. So opportunity knocks, take care of it. So anyway, back to that 70-foot dig. Trowels are for chunks. We dig through, we fly through, we get into this bigger cave, and we ended up calling it the Calf Killer Crossover. But it wasn't until after I found this cave on the same owner's property. And well, why would you call it Calf Killer Cave? Well, terrible picture, but like boring well, this had drill marks coming in from the top. It had a block-lined wall around the skylight, and it was obviously used for another homestead on the farm, butter, cream stores, whatever, right? All the signs were there. And it led to that calf killer section that Michael was jumping around and, you know, the garden trowel did, right? And this was, December 29th, 2018. Cold, muddy, big, compared to Gary, anyway. I think I hit my head on the ceiling there. But, again, we're mapping through it. And this is the entrance. If you're tall, you can get in without a ladder, but usually that's not the case. So I don't know if you see all that down on the floor, but calf killer, you know, don't know what else to say. There are teeth, bones, and it leads to this terrible crawlway that you have to go head first down into on your side, and all those rib bones and femurs are facing. Ooh, actually, this way, it's not bad going in. It's coming out, all the bones are sticking at you. It's terrible. Not from a, like, scary, it's just you're getting jabbed in the ribs by ribs. So, it was weird. But we mapped all this out. Again, character of the cave is changing, but this is another independent stream, an independent river, right? Which now, there were 2 or 3 independent ones. Where do they all join? We have no idea. But there's a good picture of the Disto X. You can see them writing everything down. But that lead, this part of the cave, it was decorated, it was cool, it was joint controlled, meaning just straight lines intersecting straight lines, right? There's a lot of that around here, as you can see. That's what all of this is. It's joint control. So we left that going, mainly because this was right after the cave flooded out, and I was dealing with mental issues with being in confined spaces in water, right? So we left that going for quite a few years. But as you can see, the trend of the cave, you kind of look at it and you're like, wow, this is getting kind of predictable. I'll bet we can guess where to look and we'll find more, right? So we head back to the main river. We get up in the upper level because there's another spot where the ceiling channel disappears, and we were hoping, oh, this is going to be it. This one's going to go forever too. It went, but it didn't go forever. It was just more upper level stuff. And then we got to this canyon crossing, and Alex had his ladder up there. We came up with this ridiculous idea to span that piece of crap from one wall to the other. I mean, we're still here today. It was kind of scary. But, I mean, the worst thing happened, we would have fell 10 feet into the water that was, a couple feet deep. But still, kind of weird, but there was an upper level, and the easiest way was to rig rope, but holy crap, you get muddy, and your vertical gear gets trashed. So I wish this cave was more vertical. It's not. But this is a caver's frog system. We don't use industrial rope access. That stuff, arborist gear will not work underground because of this. There's a lot of similarities, right? But the cavers in Europe have really made the systems that we use work in the mud. And that climb with all that mud ended up being this, and it just teed off and dead-ended, right before it connected. But that goes. Still hasn't been mapped today. So I guess that's next on the list. Now it's 2022, not that long ago, and we had some more stuff to mop up. Brought some new little people in to map all this terrible stuff. And as you can see, again, the cave's going all over the place. And on that day, I remembered this junction, but we never looked up it. So we went up there, and Alex and Melissa, that short little redhead, she's 4'11", 90 pounds. She can fit through anything. And they took off up this crawlway. And they're like, yeah, you gotta go back. Okay, so now, December 10th, 2023, a lot of people that had helped map this cave, they either graduated college, moved away, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, we gotta get some new people in here. So I got a lead for you. Let's go map this awesome thing. Yeah, it was not awesome. It was pretty gnarly. It was low. It was gravel filled. But again, you got to remember what I said about being predictable. Is it eventually going to go? Because it's perfectly in line. It's heading to intersect this joint slot where there is a bigger known cave at. So we mapped through all this terrible stuff, and there's breakdown everywhere, and Shelby's checking out this hole, and Isaac's doing whatever Isaac's doing. Made a good photo op. But again, the cave wasn't easy. This was more breakdown. I was almost too tall to fit through this. There are some benefits of being tall. There's other, disadvantages. I can climb, but I can't contort. Femurs being too long don't fit around, tight corners. So here you got Shelby and Jen. They're surveying their way through, and then we found what I was hoping we would find, which was we intersected another joint slot that was 40 feet tall. So, but it wasn't 40 feet tall right there. So, but again, it was just the predictability, and I come out of the cave and I told Alex what happened. He's like, man, Gegg Cave, man, you think you get it figured out, and then it does what you think, or it doesn't, right? That is all, still haven't drawn this up, so I guess I'm 3 years behind, right? So we have water flowing here, water flowing up there, water flowing down this way from there in this big gap in the middle. And nothing left in this area is easy, right? Nothing left is big, except for this, but that was kind of like an out of the way, like, hey, let's go check something out. So a few weeks later, let's do this again. So Alex started recruiting from NSM in Rolla, the engineering school. He got a bunch of the college kids to come down and we wiped them out. Wiped the floor with them. But to be honest, so this is Garrett and Liz. Garrett, I think he works for a gold mine in Alaska now. Liz is a hot jump or a forest fighter in Arizona, a forest firefighter. She did this trip on a broken rib. She was at Mammoth Cave in Kentucky for the New Year's expedition, and she broke a rib the day before, but she still was like, yeah, I gotta see this cave, you know. So she's tough, and Garrett's tough, and they were with Alex, and they found a snake, right? A cave snake. Oh, not really, it's a garter snake, but it came from somewhere. They were having a good time. They're taking pictures. There's Nathan in the red. You got Cole, who's a nuclear engineer that lives in New Mexico. Again, a lot of smart kids, right? Get them involved. They make you feel really dumb sometimes, you know. But this was our end, right? It ended in a rice pool, but cracks in the ceiling that went up that, again, maybe my daughter could fit, maybe you two could fit, but grown people are not fitting through this. But back to that high canyon, again, just mud filled. And you may be wondering, okay, why is the cave going from clean bedrock to mud filled? Well, when this happens, this is all from back flooding and all that sediment, right, that's in the fields, all that row cropping gets washed in. When the velocity of the water slows down, it just settles and dumps out on everything. That's why everything here is covered in mud, right? And it's everywhere around here. Most of the caves have it, if they have active water inputs, okay? Again, this was just an old upper level, high, big, cool, digging, again, garden trowel, using big footsteps into the clay. But coming back out, of course, all that crap is coming down. And this is what we mapped. This is how close it came to one of the other sumps. And right here is a lead in the ceiling to this day. Alex is the only one that's been up it. It's never been mapped, but probably goes right to the top of that breakdown that we were looking at, right? And I can say that with fairly certainty because of how well we've been able to predict what this cave has done over the years. So this was that same day. Who else spent New Year's, you know, freezing cold in wetsuits standing out in the field? Anybody? No? All right. Well, you're lost. Good time. So on that day, so my team was in the upper right, and Alex, with all the other college kids, were all the way over here. That's how far apart we were. Travel time really isn't that bad. Was that maybe an hour total? Yeah. So again, this 5-mile cave is contained so compact. And keep in mind, when we say a 5-mile cave, it's not in a straight line. It's every path that you can travel that we've mapped, right? So when people tell you, we got a 20-mile long cave on our farm, is it mapped? No. Well, then it's not 20 miles long, right? That's kind of what we mean by that. But we took a celebratory photo at the Mexican restaurant here in town simply because we've been chasing 5 miles for years, and it was just getting tougher and tougher because all the big stuff was mapped. So last year, which was the last time we were in there, so we went back to the calf killer entrance, and we went back to that water lead, thinking, all right, this is gonna be cool, right? Because Jeremy pushed it and said, oh yeah, there's this junction, and it goes, and it's still going, and he forgot to tell how terrible it was, because it's not that big. I had to do most of it on my side. I hated it, but I don't think there's another photo of it. But here we are surveying through this. Ooh, here's a high route. Alex, you were up front, right? He picked this route. I'm like, well, what is it like? Because I'm laying face down in the water right now, and this sucks. And I'd moved on to digital sketching. So now that laser that we're surveying with, now I can import all that data into a tablet, push a button, it spits the line plot out, and all I gotta do is draw. It really speeds up the terrible types of survey that we would do. So he picked this route, and we came out slimed. I think we called this passage rectal spaghetti. You kind of have to, well, if there's been one reoccurring thing that you've seen through all these photos, is a lot of it doesn't look a lot of fun, right? And we're in there for 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 hours or even longer, and it's like, well, the only way you're going to get through that is if you just embrace the suck, right? You have to have fun, and some people can deal with it. You'll know the ones that can't because they'll just finally tell you to shut up. I'm ready to go. You guys are not fun. This is not cool. But we get back out. Very interesting little light bulb looking thing here. And we're going along. You can see me with the tablet. Jen's doing the survey. She's shooting up to Alex. They're doing the stations. And this is what we ended up mapping on that day. And this is where this ends. So if we climb up here, it'll probably go into some big thing. And maybe the water will be coming in, right? Who knows? But that's kind of the thing we've been going through here. And anytime there's a red box, which there's not a lot because we've been very systematic in this cave, it's almost to the point where we can actually say this one is almost done. There's literally nothing else to do, but there's still 5 or 6 or 7 things left to do, right? But go back to the first day, the breakout on Thanksgiving Day when we had 30 leads at the end of the day from one, right? It's all kind of popped down from there. So like, what does it look like? Like, what can you do with this data? Well, you can tell where it goes, and you're like, holy crap, it goes under that house and that pond and that house and that silo and that pond, and it's all going to that big pond there, and it runs through this huge sinkhole. And aren't you afraid it'll collapse? No, cave's there for a reason. And this one, while it's not super deep, it's deep enough. The unfortunate part about it is everything shuts down right here. This is a low point. The spring is 2.5 miles away. So if the cave is 40 feet tall in canyons, right, and that borehole that was 27 feet tall by 15 feet wide, if it's that big, 2.5 miles from the spring, how big is the cave further downstream where even more water inputs, right? How big is the Mississippi in Minnesota? Not very. How big is it here? It's huge because of all the other systems that pour into it. Earthquake cave right here, that first map. Again, it's a water input. It's draining stuff from up here. So it's like, gosh, if we can just get past that low sinkhole collapse, and it is massive. Who knows how big the cave will be, right? But they don't all go. This is kind of like a heat map of the highest points in yellow to the lowest in purple. And you'll see one thing which doesn't show very well because I did put earthquake in here, but this would all be blue through here. And again, it just, everything's draining, but we keep finding segments the further down, because that very first photo of the water was actually right there. Where was that? It was right here. So where I first said, ooh, we've got moving water, but it comes out of the wall, goes in the other wall, that was right there. This is kind of the overall look of the map with all the ceiling heights stripped out, all the cross sections, everything. So I still have drafting to do here, over here, and way out here. But other than that, this is a list of everybody that's been involved. And just because Jackson only mapped 177 feet, don't fool yourself that what he mapped wasn't significant, because his trip was probably harder than most of what I've done, or what Alex, actually, you were on the trip, so, you know. But anyway, this is the thing. Again, this is kind of the discovery of this cave system. It's still ongoing today. It's not going like it used to be. There you go. So hope you enjoyed.
Chad?
Yep.
Thank you.
Right.
How deep has been in the cave?
Oh, how deep have I been? The deepest in Missouri, I don't know, but I've caved in, in Mexico, 2,946 feet deep. That's straight down. Yeah, there's not caves like that in Missouri, but that's the deepest cave in the Western Hemisphere. It's 5,120 feet deep, and that was in 2024. That is Golondrinas. That is a pit that's 1,286 feet deep, if I remember. No, System of Huala is the deepest cave in the Western Hemisphere, and it's 8 hours on a very terrible bus ride south of Mexico City in the mountains. And I didn't go this year, wanted to, but yeah, Bob, you did that. Set me up.
Okay, folks, we would like to thank the WASP Chemical Lime Company for sponsoring this again. If I could get a round of applause for them, please. read it off of a letter that we got. We have exciting news to share. The St. Genevieve Museum Learning Center has received an extraordinary offer, one unlike any since we opened our new location. And we opened our new location in October of 2020, just in time for the pandemic. A generous benefactor has agreed to match every dollar we raise over the next 120 days. This means any contribution you make will double, helping us pay off existing costly construction debt and build the operating reserves we need to thrive. As a 501c3 nonprofit, we rely heavily on the generosity of business and patrons like yourself. We receive no tax dollars, no local, state, or federal funding. Your support makes all the difference. Museum generated revenue currently covers roughly half of our operating costs to keep the doors open. The rest comes from donors who believe, as we do, that preserving the past and sharing history matters. This is your museum. It belongs to everyone who has ever walked through the doors. We are just 9 years away from celebrating our 100th anniversary in the museum, a milestone we intend to reach together. This matching gift is one of the most significant opportunities in our history, and it'll help ensure that we get there. We have forms at the entrance, so anybody that would like to help us, please pick up a form. The benefactor asked us to have, the way he will match this is we have a pledge card. When we turn in the pledge card to the benefactor, they will write a check equal to whatever somebody donated. So this is huge for us. We thank everybody that's helped us so far, and we appreciate you being here. If you get an opportunity, please pick one of these up on the way out the door. Chad.
Yep.
I can't tell you how much we appreciate this. Is the third time you've been with us. Every one of them well attended, and each one more interesting than the next.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I did want to follow up with one thing. So anybody who doesn't do this may wonder, like, why do we do this, right? This is more of like, some of you may go deer hunting. Some of you may be into cars and hot rods, which I'm into. Some may be into hiking or mountaineering, right? Well, for some of us, this is what we're into. For me, I get really hot. So staying underground, it allows me to be active and not sweat my butt off, but I still do. But that's why we do it. So if you ever have, I don't know, me or Alex show up on your door years from now, knocking on it, you're like, oh yeah, you're that guy that likes crawling around in the mud. But that's it. We're not, we don't, that's all we do. We make maps, we share the photos and the story and whatever we discover with the landowners. And really, it's kind of a round the way to say it's an activity where if you do it right, you build a lot of relationships. Because I've known this family now for 14 years, So anyway, that's why we do what we do. So I appreciate y'all having me.
Thank you again, Chad. Everybody, thank you for